The next question is going to be going to Daphne Kinkle first, and the category is budget finance. What changes to the FCHOA budgeting process would you recommend to make the process easier for the residents to understand?
Wow. We changed a lot about the budget process this year. I think it made it easier for most people to understand. Having said that, there is still outreach work I think we need to do to explain where the numbers come from, what they mean, how we track them. It's the usual communications. And I think, to be honest, these were virtual meetings, and the information was published and nobody came. And so I hate to say it, it's, you know, several hours out of your life, but most people who sat through them have said, I did learn a lot. So this is a two-way thing. We need to work harder, and I think, to be honest, folks need to work a little harder. And the big thing is, you know, obviously communicating out results and meaning, which kind of is off the topic, but I just wanted to say that I think it's so important that so much of what we've said today is about communications. A lot of these questions seem to come from a lack of communication, and a lot of our answers on how to deal with them come with communications. And so it's critical, and this is just another example of where we need to do better on both sides communicating.
Thank you. Roy?
This is an issue that I find fascinating because it's one that I've dealt with my entire career. I'm just going to say it that way. Is that basically our finances and our budget is a very complex document. And the effort that the Finance Committee and Ray and the things that you've done a good job of trying to make it understandable. But, you know, we're still going to have to work at it. We're still going to have to communicate, okay? We're still going to have to try to reduce it into ready concepts that people understand. We're dealing with a budget that has multiple funds and all that craziness, okay? And that's something that most people don't deal with. And what they would like to see it in a way that it's A minus B equals C. And we've got to figure out a way to marry those two things to make it work a little bit better. But having said that, I will tell you, I think we've been doing a pretty good job.
Thank you. Ray?
This is a tough one for me to actually comment on, right? Because it was my responsibility this year to do that communication, and frankly, you know, in pure honesty, I think that I did the best job I could have given the complexity of the subject. I spent a great deal of time trying to reduce the complexity to blocks of information that could be understood. Now, could I have done better? Certainly. I mean, these are complex things. And frankly, it's my job, and it's the job of the Finance Committee and the people who talk about budget it's their job to figure out a way to communicate how all this works in a fashion that people can understand. I gave it my best shot there, and frankly, you know, I knew that it would fall short in some areas, and I apologize for that. And frankly, I look to whatever suggestions. If I'm asked to do something again, whatever suggestions I can pick up to do that better. But it is complex, and in this particular case, you know, I tried as best I can. Now, I will tell you that I had somewhere under, I think, 400 people who listened or actually viewed the online presentation. It didn't quite go viral because I understand I need like over 1 million people to do that. But I did have over 400. And that probably, if I subtract the 3 or 4 times that I listened to it to see if I could have done better, you know, maybe move that down. But it's a tough thing. It's one you got to constantly work at, and that's what we try and do. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. Rick?
I am the only non-financial person running for the board. These 4 folks that have preceded me, or at least 3, and then Bob's following, there is no way that I could even pretend to add content to this discussion, other than to tell Ray and Daphne, don't apologize for anything. I think this is you're on a road right now. You've gotten maybe halfway there. There's progress that's been made, progress that would continue. It's just a tough topic. I would, however, because I can't stay quiet on anything. I got a couple of things I could look at. One is I remember Social Security discussions 10, 15 years ago where Al Gore, I don't remember the year, I remember it like it was yesterday, said what we need is a lockbox. I don't know if any of you remember that, but what we need is a lockbox, and it's real simple: money in, money out. I think we're a little more complicated than that. So maybe we're a little more complicated than Social Security, and I'd encourage the group. I think, seriously, the survey did point this out again, that this is an area that we need to get at. And during the survey reviews that are going to occur this month and next month, my suggestion was going to be that on the topic of financial understanding within the community, it's time for a focus group. It's time to get a cross-section of residents together, try to find those who haven't participated in the discussions, and find out what we can do to do better. I think it's time, and I'd like to see it happen. That's it.
Okay. Bob Boggio?
I agree with some of what Rick just said. I don't put myself in the finance bucket, although I have a lot of finance training. I think we need to be real here. This is a $6 million operation. It is not that complicated. We try to make it complicated, but I have to say, Daphne and Ray, you guys did a fabulous job this past year. I mean, I watched Daphne, I participated with her on the finance committee. We made a very serious attempt at trying to re-engineer the way we do the budget. And Ray, you did an outstanding job of trying to explain it. Very difficult to explain to people that don't have a clue about finances. Now, the third part I would say is the person asking this question needs some self-examination. We communicate, we yell in a pipe, and there's nobody at the other end. That person could show up at any one of the finance committee meetings. They could show up at our board of directors meetings. They're invited. They don't come, and they complain. I don't know if they're looking for spoon feeding or what, but this is not a very complicated financial situation here. I appreciate the question, but I think that person asking the question needs to think about how they would like to get the information and not so much criticize those that are giving out the information in a very professional way. That's all I have to say.